Alone for 3 days, she cried for help when he unveiled the sack. An incredible secret was revealed. Emily sat alone in her dimly lit kitchen, tears streaming down her face as silence engulfed her like a thick fog. 3 long days had passed since she lost her job at the factory, each blaring tick of the clock a reminder of her desperation. The weight of unpaid bills sat heavily on her chest, her shame unbearable as she replayed her situation over and over in her mind. Her children, Jenna and Luke, had been away at their grandmother's, and without them, the loneliness threatened to consume her. All she could do was cry for help, her voice a whisper unheard beyond these walls. She thought about her father, a man who had faced life's storms with unwavering strength. Never back down, he'd say, his voice echoing in her mind. Yet here she was, back against the wall, feeling utterly defeated. The warmth of community she once felt now seemed so distant. The town where all her ancestors had built their lives felt like a cage now, trapping her within the confines of her failure. Outside, the familiar sound of Tom, her kind-hearted neighbor, usually gave her solace. A humble veteran, Tom was like a breath of fresh air, a reminder of better days. Yet, for 3 agonizing days, she had waited in vain, her hope dwindling alongside her strength. The emptiness around her mirrored the despair inside. She could almost hear the whisper of her father's encouragement, spurring her to find the courage to seek help, but the shadows of doubt silenced his words. Little did she know, Tom was on his routine walk, his keen sense of duty tugging at him, sensing something was off. As he ambled past Emily's house, a faint sound pierced the air, a muffled cry for help. His heart raced. Instinctively he turned back, approaching her door with urgency. But as he neared, he thought of the old sack he had seen by the edge of town, long neglected and ignored, curiosity gnawing at him to take a peek before checking on Emily. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As he entered Emily's home, he could feel the heaviness in the air, a weight that pressed down on both of them like a lead blanket. He quickly shoved the sack into her hands, hoping to distract her from the darkness looming around them. When she tore it open, the contents slid out in a flurry: dusty historical documents, letters from generations past, the ink still vibrant. Connections to the founding families of their town spilled forth, stories of resilience etched in the fragile pages. With every word, she felt herself unearthing the power of her lineage, a legacy that now demanded visibility. But just as the room filled with hope, stifled gasps rose in echoes around them. Emily's heart raced. She could feel the curious eyes of the townsfolk, whispering behind her back. She had often battled their judgments, but now, faced with this unexpected truth, how could she confront their doubts? Would this forgotten piece of history bring forth acceptance or more hostility? As hurt feelings and simmering resentments bubbled to the surface, she stood at a crossroads, the walls of her identity quaking. Could she embrace this legacy and reclaim her place in a community that had once laid paths through struggle? Or would she shrink back, retreating into the shadows of shame? The air crackled with potential, leaving one question hanging between them: could the bond of family and community rise to meet the overwhelming tide? Or would Emily be swallowed whole by her fears? With trembling hands, Emily sifted through the letters that spilled like forgotten memories across the kitchen table. Each page carried the weight of stories untold, lives lived in the shadow of the same struggles she faced now. As she read, she could almost hear the voices of her ancestors, weaving through time and connecting her to this moment. They had fought against the odds, faced hardship, and yet here they had left remains of their strength. "You have every right to be here, Emily." Tom's reassuring voice broke the tension, grounding her. "This is part of who you are. It's important." His eyes sparkled with genuine warmth, and she could see a flicker of hope igniting in the corners of his own soul. "I don't know," she hesitated, emotion choking her voice. "They see me as just a failure, a burden. Can I really stand up to them now with this?" "Emily, everyone has triumphs and failures. You're not alone in this." Tom leaned closer, his sincerity wrapped around her like a shield. "You have the chance to rise. Look at what you've found. You're more than just your job. This history, it's powerful. Bit by bit, courage crept into her heart. What if sharing this legacy could shift the narrative? What if it could bridge the gap of isolation that had grown thicker with every judgmental glance and hushed whisper? She felt the flicker of her father's spirit beside her, urging her, just as she had imagined. Suddenly, a sharp knock at the door jolted them both. Emily's heart sank. The warmth of Tom's encouragement dimmed as she thought of the townsfolk. She had spent years dreading their opinions, fearing their scrutiny. But she was tired of hiding. She tucked a letter into the pocket of her apron, determined to claim a piece of her heritage, even if it was only a single word or sentence at a time. Tom stood beside her as she opened the door. A trio of neighbors stood on the doorstep, their faces filled with curiosity and a hint of apprehension. Emily Margaret, the townsbaker, spoke first. The others shifted uneasily. We heard we saw you with the sack. We want to talk. Emily felt her pulse thudding in her ears. Their voices echoed with judgment, but behind those expressions, she sensed something deeper: concern? She couldn't tell. Listen, she started, but was met with Margaret's raised hand. We've seen what you've gone through, Margaret interrupted, her tone softening. And we want to help. You'd be amazed at what stories we all carry. How they can change us. The entrance of this unexpected dialogue triggered something within Emily. She thought of the letter's stories of resilience and struggle that mirrored her own, stories that needed to be told. Maybe, just maybe, this moment was her opportunity. Taking a deep breath, she stepped fully into the threshold. I want to share these stories, she began, her voice steadier now. Our stories. Because it's time we recognized our struggles and embraced our strengths together. Let us do this. Together. As the neighbors exchanged glances, Emily's heart filled with unexpected hope. The air buzzed with the energy of possibility. But deep inside her, uncertainty still lurked. Was this really the beginning of a new chapter? Or just another fleeting moment of bravado in a lifetime of doubt? With the balance of fate hanging in the air, she plunged forward, ready to stand her ground. But would they truly stand with her? The silence thickened, stretching into an unbreakable bond as Emily waited for their response. The daylight faded behind the gentle hues of evening, casting a warm glow that softened the concerns etched on her neighbors' faces. Stepping forward, Margaret's expression softened even more, as if the weight of years shared could finally be lifted. Emily, she said gently, we're here because we've been inspired by your bravery. It took guts to explore your family's past, something many of us have tucked away. We thought we were alone in our struggles too. At the mention of the word alone, Emily's heart thumped harder. It resonated with her own struggles, the loneliness of feeling judged, the fear of being cast aside. She glanced at Tom, who looked back with a look of encouragement that bolstered her resolve. What do you mean? Emily asked, sensing the shift in the atmosphere. What stories do you have? Another neighbor, Bill, a burly man with kind eyes, stepped forward. When I lost my job last year, I thought my world had ended. I was ashamed to admit it, but I fell into a dark place. Then one day, I found an old journal from my grandfather. He had written about his struggles after coming to this country, the fears he faced, and how he found a way out. It reminded me that I'm not alone. None of us are. Bill's voice trembled slightly, but Emily could see the power it held. This was real, a truth she had longed to hear. It wasn't just her voice that was lost. It was a shared experience that stretched across generations. As if on cue, the others began sharing their stories, each woven with threads of hardship and courage. The baker, Margaret, talked about her struggle with mental health, using her kitchen as a refuge and a battleground. Sarah, the local teacher, spoke of her journey as a single mother, pouring everything into raising her kids, often feeling like she was failing them. Each story built a bridge, one that Emily had not known could exist. They spoke not only of struggles but also of resilience, reminding one another of the strength that lay dormant within. The warmth in Emily's chest swelled as she listened, heartened by the unfolding patterns of connection. She grew aware of the letter still nestled in her pocket, her lineage whispering to her, urging her to share. Once the stories had settled around them like embers from a fire, Emily felt the moment blooming in confidence. What if we gathered together? She hesitated. Then let the words spill forth. What if we created a community storytelling night? A place to share more of our histories, to connect in our pain and our triumphs? At first, the idea hung in the air like a promise unfulfilled. But then Margaret responded, her voice steady, I think that's brilliant, Emily. We could make it an event. Share recipes, tales, laughter, and maybe even face our fears together. The tension she had felt started to dissipate as excitement rippled through everyone. Faces lit up with anticipation. Possibilities pouring out like the warmth from the oven. Emily felt as though the darkness that had loomed over her was finally dimming, replaced by the glow of shared experience as plans began to swirl around her. A deeper sense of belonging rooted itself in Emily's heart. But just as a flicker of certainty ignited within her, doubt nagged at the edges. Would her family's stories resonate with others? Would they understand her struggle, embrace her past, and in turn confront their own? The night wore on, filled with hope and laughter, but deep inside, a whisper of uncertainty lingered. Could she really carry the weight of her ancestors' legacies and share them in a way that would inspire? Just as those questions began to swirl in her mind, a rustling sound came from the sack she had brought, the same sack that contained the letters of her lineage. With a tremor of excitement and fear, Emily glanced at Tom, who caught her gaze. What about the others waiting for you in there? He urged, curiosity dancing in his eyes. What secret still lay hidden within that sack waiting to be uncovered? Would they be the key to bridging her past with her present? Emily's heart raced as she opened the sack. It felt heavy, not just with the weight of the letters inside but with the history they carried. The papers crinkled as she pulled out the first envelope, her fingers trembling with anticipation. The name scrawled on the front took her back, connecting her to a world she had yet to explore fully. She drew in a deep breath and reached for the letter. As she unfolded the delicate paper, the scent of age and ink filled her senses, a reminder of generations past. The handwriting was shaky, yet familiar. This was her great-grandmother's voice, a woman who had left a mark on Emily's family's history, but whose story had remained a mystery to her until now. Dear Emily, she read aloud, her voice steady but quiet. The room went silent, everyone leaning in to catch every word. If you're reading this, it means I've journeyed home to you in a way I never expected. Life has shaped me, taught me love and loss. There was something almost magical in those words, a lifeline thrown back across time. The neighbors watched Emily closely, their own stories glimmering in their eyes. This shared moment felt sacred, as if they were all invited to witness the unearthing of an intimate truth. As she continued, Emily felt a warmth spread through her. Her great-grandmother wrote about hardships and heartbreak, but also about hope and resilience. There were tales of laughter shared during dark times, of community gathering to lift one another. It echoed everything they had just spoken about, reaffirming the bonds they were building that very night. When she finished reading, the air felt charged with the realization that everyone carried untold stories waiting to surface. She looked around at her neighbors, their eyes wide, some tearing up. In that moment, they were not merely an audience. They were fellow travelers on a journey of healing. Your stories, she whispered, her throat tight, they deserve to be told just like mine. Margaret chimed in, we can't hide anymore. We owe it to ourselves to create a narrative that honors our past. Inspired, others began to share their own family stories, unearthing their own letters, journals, and photographs. A sense of urgency enveloped the group, each person keen to connect deeply, moving beyond mere conversations to the heart of what it meant to be truly vulnerable. Later, as laughter rose and mingled with stories of both joy and pain, Emily could feel the tension within her begin to fade. The weight of her ancestors felt lighter, replaced by a warmth that spread through her, igniting a passion she hadn't searched for until now. But beneath the surface, doubts still flickered like shadows. Had she just stumbled upon a fleeting moment of connection, or was there something more enduring here? Did her great-grandmother's letters hold the answers she sought, or were they an invitation to explore a future she couldn't predict? Suddenly, Emily's excitement sparked another thought. What if we took this further? What if we compiled our stories into something tangible, a book, a legacy? The others looked at her with a mix of surprise and wonder, eyes glimmering with the prospect of something bigger. Can we really do that? Tom asked, leaning closer. Why not? She replied, her heart pounding with renewed hope. Together we can weave our past into a future that shines. We can make sure no one feels alone again. As the group buzzed with energy and ideas, Emily felt herself standing on the precipice of a new beginning. Yet as her thoughts swirled with possibilities, A sudden rush of a cold draft swept through the room, making them all turn. The sack shifted, shifting the stack of letters, causing a forgotten object to tumble out and land with a soft thud. An old, tarnished locket. What did it hold, that locket? Could it unlock even deeper secrets about the past they were just beginning to explore? The locket lay on the floor, glinting dully under the dim light of the cozy room. Emily leaned down, her fingers brushing the cool metal. It felt oddly significant, like a key that could unlock something long buried. Wiping the surface with her sleeve, she saw a faded inscription on one side. "Forever in my heart." The room was filled with a hushed anticipation. Everyone seemed to hold their breath as if the locket held the answers to the mysteries swirling around them. Emily could almost hear the whispers of her ancestors beckoning. She picked it up gingerly, feeling its weight and the pull of its history. "What if it belonged to your great-grandmother too?" someone suggested, breaking the silence. Emily nodded slowly, her heart racing as she opened the locket. Inside there were two small spaces, one holding a faded photograph that looked like an older woman with striking familiar features. The other side was empty, as if waiting for something or someone to fill it. "Who is she?" Tom asked, leaning in for a closer look. The photograph felt like a bridge connecting them to Emily's past. "I think it's her," Emily whispered, recognition dawning as she studied the woman's kind eyes. "It must be my great-grandmother. But why is there an empty space?" Margaret stepped forward, her curiosity piqued. "Miniature photos sometimes. They were often made for loved ones," she explained. Could it be someone she lost? Maybe a child or a friend? A profound silence settled over the group, tension thick in the air. The locket transformed the moment. This wasn't just an old object. It was a reminder of sacrifices, of connections that transcended generations. It was an unvoiced plea, urging them to remember those who came before and the impact of their stories. Emily's chest tightened. What if this was a message to find out the truth about her life? And why there's that emptiness? The thought excited her, but a wave of anxiety washed over her. What if digging deeper uncovered painful truths they weren't ready to face? "Let us find out," Tom urged, his voice steady despite the palpable apprehension in the room. "Each story we uncover could lead us closer to healing, to understanding ourselves." Feeling emboldened by their support, Emily slipped the locket into her pocket. "We could start with this," she said, her mind racing ahead to the possibilities. "Tomorrow I'll look into the family history records." A murmur of agreement rippled through the group. The air felt alive with determination and shared purpose. It was as if they had forged a new pact that transcended individual stories, intertwining their lives through collective history. Suddenly, Emily felt a strange pull. The cold draft returned, stronger this time, whispering hints of something yet hidden. It made her skin prick with a familiar sensation. It wasn't just the locket or the letters. Something was waiting to be revealed. "Wait!" a voice shouted from the back. It was Helen, her face pale as she held up a faded small notebook that had fallen out of the sack. "I think I found something else." With every step towards her, the weight of new secrets loomed. Emily's heart raced. What else could this night hold? What more about her great-grandmother would they uncover together? The group gathered around, the atmosphere thick with excitement and dread. As Emily leaned closer, she could hardly breathe. It was a moment of truth just waiting to unfold. Helen's hands trembled as she flipped open the little notebook, revealing pages yellowed with age. The delicate crackle of paper against her fingers accentuated the gravity of what was unfolding. With each word she read aloud, the room grew tighter around them, their collective breaths creating a symphony of anticipation. June 10, 1941. Helen began, her voice wavering. "Today I found out." She paused, scanning the page. The group leaned in closer, the tension humming like a live wire. "The children, they've been taken," she read, her eyes wide with shock. "I had to hide them. If anyone finds this," Emily's heart thudded. Who were the children? Where had they been taken? She moved a step closer, the locket pressing against her chest as if it were alive, urging her to uncover the truth. Helen turned to the next page, her voice barely a whisper. "They're coming for me too. I can hear them outside. I have to act fast. There's a little locket that tells the story. My key to them." Her brow furrowed in concentration. "The locket is not just a trinket. It's a connection, an anchor to those I love." "Do you think she was in danger?" Tom pondered aloud, the concern etching deeper lines across his forehead. Emily felt the room closing in. A mix of fear and determination curling in her stomach. She was trying to protect someone. A sense of urgency ignited inside her as she considered the implications. Who were the children? The almost ghostly presence of her great-grandmother loomed larger, her story beckoning for exploration. Keep reading, Emily urged, her voice steadier than she felt. Helen turned another page, revealing hurried sketches and frantic notes. It became clear as they pored over the words that her great-grandmother had not only been a matriarch but also a warrior in her own right, battling against unseen forces long before Emily was even a thought. There were names mentioned, names that seemed familiar yet strange, and hints of dark times Emily had never been told about. They must have been in hiding, Emily murmured, realization dawning on her like the sunrise. There's a whole piece of family history hidden behind this. Makes you think of all those unspoken stories, Margaret said, her voice thick with emotion. The shared weight of legacy pressed down on them, wrapping the group in an invisible embrace. The locket was clearly more than a keepsake. It was a symbol of resilience, of bonds forged through adversity. As Helen turned to the final page, her breath caught. Wait, there's a map, she said, eyes wide with disbelief. There's a place marked here. It says to meet at the old oak tree, where the memories linger, the only way to find the truth. The silence that followed felt saturated with possibility. Emily's heart raced again, thumping against her ribcage with urgency and excitement. We have to go there, she declared, resolution flooding her voice. We need to find out what happened. A spark ignited in Tom's eyes, and a nod of agreement passed around the group. Every second felt like a flash of electricity through their shared resolve. They weren't just stepping into the past. They were ready to uncover what had been lost. Let us do this, Emily said. But first she paused, her fingers brushing the locket once again. We have to take this with us. It belongs to her story. As they gathered their things, the weight of the moment settled upon them, a mix of fear and hope swirling within. What truths lay ahead, hidden beneath the roots of that old oak tree? What was waiting for them to uncover? With every step they took towards the door, Emily felt an undeniable pull from the locket, like a heartbeat echoing through time, calling her home. The sun dipped low in the sky, painting the horizon in shades of orange and purple as the group made their way to the old oak tree. Each step felt like a pulse beating in unison with Emily's heart. The locket hung heavily around her neck, a reassuring weight filled with promises of secrets and the unknown. Do you think the oak tree is still there? Tom asked, kicking at a small stone along the path. His voice was casual, but the anticipation beneath it was hard to miss. Margaret, walking slightly behind them, looked up. It's been there for generations. If anything can hold a memory, it will be that tree. As they approached the clearing, the shadows danced around them, giving the landscape an almost otherworldly feel. The gnarled branches of the oak loomed above, twisted and strong like family ties that had withstood the test of time. Emily could almost hear whispers rustling in the leaves, hints of long-forgotten stories yearning to be told. There, Helen pointed, her voice barely above a whisper. A knot formed in Emily's stomach as she saw the unmistakable outline of the old oak. It was both comforting and eerie. She could feel the air thickening around them, vibrant with the weight of history. They stood before the tree, the centuries-old bark telling layers of tales. What now? Emily asked, scanning the base of the tree, searching for any sign of the map's promise. Let us look for something, anything that seems out of place, Tom suggested, his brow furrowed in concentration. As they circled the tree, Emily stepped close, her fingers brushing against the cool, rough surface. The sensations coursed through her, filling her with a blend of hope and anxiety. What if we're not supposed to find anything? She murmured, feeling a flicker of doubt creep into her mind. Helen joined her, kneeling down to inspect a small crevice in the roots. If the locket is the key, maybe it needs to be here somehow. Just as she spoke, a glint caught Emily's eye. Buried partially beneath a tangle of roots was something silver, its sheen almost beckoning them closer. She felt her heart beat harder as she reached for it. As she dug deeper, her fingers closed around the object, pulling it free. It was a small, ornate box, aged yet intricately designed. Look at this, Emily exclaimed, adrenaline rushing through her. She could feel the group's eyes on her, their anticipation becoming electric. Helen gently took the box from Emily's hands. The locket, it must have led us here for a reason, she breathed, her eyes reflecting the vibrancy of the sunset. With trembling hands, Helen opened the box. It creaked softly, revealing a collection of worn letters and a delicate silver key. A collective inhale filled the air, every heart stopping for a moment as anticipation hung palpably between them. What could be locked away? Emily wondered, a mix of fear and excitement swirling within her. Are the children in there? Is this connected to the story? Tom knelt beside them, intrigued. Or is it something else, maybe a hidden truth about our family? Helen moved the letters aside, revealing more of the box's contents. The letters, they seem personal. She looked at her friends, a mixture of determination and vulnerability in her eyes. We have to find out what's inside. As they huddled around the box, the faint rustle of leaves above echoed the weight of their moment, the gravity of the past anchoring them to the present. Outside, night began to blanket the world, casting an ethereal glow around them. With each breath they took, the air thickened with whispers of what might come next. But like everything in life, it was only the beginning, a doorway to yet another mystery. What if we uncover a truth that changes everything? Emily hesitated. It was a question submerged in echoes of the past, waiting to be answered under the watchful boughs of that steadfast oak. And as they stood there, eyes fixed on the box, the pull of family history entangled them all in its tendrils, daring them to venture further. The moment of revelation felt near, but a truth buried deep remained shrouded in shadow. What kind of memories awaited them within those fragile letters? And could they find the courage to face it together? The night deepened around them, wrapping the clearing in a hushed embrace as the first stars began to twinkle overhead. Emily's heart raced, caught between dread and excitement. The box lay like a treasure chest before them, a portal to secrets that had been hidden for generations. Let us read the letters, Helen suggested, her voice barely above a whisper. There was a palpable tension in the air, a sense that they were about to unearth something monumental. Tom nodded, shifting his position so he could peer inside. We can't just keep staring at it. We need to know what it says. Taking a deep breath, Helen carefully lifted the top letter from the pile, its paper yellowed with age. She unfolded it with shaking fingers, the sound of crackling paper echoing in the stillness. Dear Alice, she began, her voice trembling slightly as she read the words written in elegant cursive. The letters spoke of love, of longing, and of promises made beneath the very oak they stood before. Each word unveiled a glimpse into a life lived years ago, stories that reached across time to touch their hearts. As Helen continued reading, Emily felt the weight of the narrative settle within her. She envisioned Alice, whoever she was, standing beneath this very oak, perhaps feeling the same mix of anticipation and fear. The connection felt so real. It was as if Alice's spirit lingered, woven into the fabric of their gathering. Suddenly, a gust of wind whipped through the clearing, rustling the leaves. Emily shivered, the chill cutting through her excitement. Do you feel that? She asked, glancing at her friends with wide eyes. Tom smiled, perhaps to ease her worry. Just a breeze. It's a little spooky, but it adds to the moment, right? Like the universe trying to get our attention. Let us keep reading, Margaret encouraged, her eyes gleaming. The thrill of discovery was infectious. Helen moved to the next letter, the flickering light from Tom's phone illuminating her face. The words flowed like a river, depicting tragedy, hope, and promises that twisted into heartache. Oh, she breathed, pausing mid-sentence. The tension in her voice was palpable, drawing them all closer. This letter is addressed to someone named Henry. It talks about a grave secret. Their protecting and electric silence hung between them as the weight of those words sank in. Emily's pulse quickened. What kind of secret? She whispered. I don't know yet, Helen replied, her brow furrowing as she continued to read. But it sounds like it could involve our families. The revelation hit them like a tidal wave. The past wasn't just a ghost, it was a living, breathing entity that had ramifications for their present. Whispers of betrayal, love, and jealousy drifted from the papers, sparking questions both frightening and thrilling. What if our families are tied in ways we never imagined? Tom said, his voice wavering but filled with wonder. Emily felt the excitement swell in her chest, but a feeling of unease lurked beneath the surface. But what if it's something darker? What if uncovering it leads to more pain? Isn't that the risk we take for truth? Helen replied, her voice steady, eyes gleaming with the fire of determination. The night felt alive around them as more secrets unraveled within the letter's family connections that intertwined like fragile branches of the oak above. But just as they were swept away in the tide of revelations, Helen's voice stumbled upon a line that made everyone stop, holding their breath in unison. If the key is found, only then will the truth set them free. Emily's heart sank as the gravity of those words settled over them. A key. The silver key resting in the box had to be the answer, the connection to whatever had been locked away. What do we do with it? Margaret asked, her expression a mix of hope and trepidation. Emily took a deep breath, glancing from one friend to the next. We have to find whatever it unlocks, but we need to be ready for anything. As determination settled among them, the branches of the oak rustled, almost as if in agreement. They were on the brink of something monumental, and the air around them buzzed with possibility. Together, right? Tom asked, glancing at each of them, his resolve steady and clear. Together they echoed in unison. But beneath their resolve, Emily couldn't shake the question teasing at the edges of her mind: what truths had they just stirred? And were they truly prepared to face the storm that would come with them? As they gathered their courage in the silver key, a howl of wind echoed through the night, a foreboding reminder of the secrets yet to reveal themselves. What lay ahead was an unknown force, waiting to test their bonds and their bravery. The atmosphere shifted. The soft murmur of the night seemed to hush, waiting on their next move. Emily clutched the key tightly in her palm, its coolness anchoring her racing thoughts. This key wasn't just a piece of metal. It was a promise of revelation, of risk, and potentially of heartbreak. What do you think it unlocks? Helen asked, looking from the key to the box and back, her voice filled with a mix of excitement and fear. It has to be something important. It could be a diary or a trunk of old family belongings, Tom speculated, enthusiasm bubbling up. Whatever it is, it's got to connect us to Alice and Henry. That would be incredible. Emily felt a flicker of hope but swallowed it down quickly. Or it could lead to a mess. Let us not get ahead of ourselves. Come on, Em, Margaret chimed in, her eyes sparkling with adventure. This is exciting. We're discovering a part of our history that just might change everything we know about our families. With a deep, steadying breath, Emily glanced at the towering oak. Okay, let us go find where this key fits. We need to know. The four friends ventured deeper into the clearing, the glow from Tom's phone casting shadows on their faces as they searched for anything that looked like a lock. The wind had calmed, but a feeling of anticipation lingered in the air. At last, Helen paused beside an ancient weathered chest partially buried under roots. Its surface was marked by time, with intricate patterns etched into the wood. This could be it, she breathed, kneeling beside it. Emily felt her heart thud. If this was the chest, it meant they were close to unveiling secrets that could change everything. Try the key, Tom urged, eyes wide with curiosity. Helen hesitated, glancing back at her friends. What if it's just a bunch of old clothes? Let us find out, Emily pressed gently, her heart pounding in her ears. With shaking hands, Helen inserted the key into the chest's rusty lock. A satisfying click echoed in the air, laced with a sense of finality that sent shivers down Emily's spine. As Helen lifted the lid, a musty smell wafted out, mingling with the night air. Inside, bundles of faded fabric lay, tied together with fraying twine. But beneath them a faint glimmer caught the light. What is that? Margaret squinted, reaching in cautiously. Helen leaned closer and began to unfurl the top layer. As the last piece fell away, a beautiful necklace emerged, glistening with a large colored gemstone at its center. It radiated a strange energy, as if it had its own heartbeat. This looks like a family heirloom, she murmured, awe creeping into her voice. Emily felt drawn to the necklace, but wariness gripped her heart. Maybe we shouldn't touch it, but before she could finish, Tom had leaned in, examining it closely. Wait a second, there's something engraved on the back. Helen flipped the piece over and gasped. Its initials. H&HN, she read aloud, her eyes wide with realization. Alice Hawthorne and Henry Nelson. What does that mean? Emily asked, her voice thick with emotion as she processed the reality crashing in on them. It means they really were connected, Tom said softly, still studying the necklace. But why was this hidden? What happened? And why was keeping it a secret so important? The questions loomed over them like thunderheads, dark and heavy with unresolved tension. As they stood in the dim light, surrounded by echoes of the past, Emily felt the weight of history pressing down on her. Each gaze turned inward, sharing a moment of vulnerability that silenced their excitement. What were they getting themselves into? Would this discovery bind them together? Or would it tear their families apart in ways they couldn't yet foresee? As stars twinkled brightly above, illuminating their intertwined shadows, a foreboding realization fluttered in the back of Emily's mind. They might have just stumbled onto a family curveball that could fracture their friendships and reshape their identities forever. "Let us take this back home," Helen finally said, her voice steadying as determination took root once more. "We have to find out everything." But as they hastily packed up the heirloom, a chilling rustle burst through the trees. It wasn't the wind, felt alive like a warning. Emily glanced back, her heart pounding. What was that? The night had shifted again, and as they trudged away, a spark of unease pulsed among them. There was more to discover, more secrets waiting to rise from the shadows. Would they be able to face what those revelations would bring? Would the truth be worth the risk? As the group wandered back through the tranquil night, shadows chased them, and whispers of uncertainty clung to the air. Every crack of a twig sounded like a heartbeat drumming in anticipation. Their treasure tucked away. They knew this was just the beginning. Minimal words passed between them. Awe and dread loomed larger than any comfort in the midst of discovery. The sun would rise soon, but for Emily, the thought of dawn brought both hope and dread. She felt the silver locket resting against her chest, a weight tethering her to the past, and now to a new family secret. The necklace still glimmered in her mind, and the initials H and H echoed like an unanswered question. "Are we ready for this?" she finally asked, voice barely above a whisper, breaking the silence that surrounded them. Fear rippled through her, but so did resolve. Tom glanced at her, his eyes radiating understanding. "We've come too far to back down now. Together we can handle whatever comes." Their collective determination was palpable, a spark igniting courage amongst them. As they returned to Emily's kitchen, the familiar hum of her home offered a comfort that momentarily eased their tension. "Let us spread everything out," she suggested, her heart racing at the thought of finally confronting what lay inside the box. With her pulse quickening, she placed the locket, the box, and the letters across the table. Like pieces of a puzzle, they were symbols of a legacy that was finally being unearthed. Tom reached for the letters first, his fingers trembling slightly. These could lead us closer to understanding their connection. What happened between Alice and Henry? As they began to read through the letters together, Emily felt transformation wash over her. The pain and struggles detailed inside were overflowing with love, regret, and conflict, mirroring her own feelings about life. Every line felt like a note in a symphony of shared history, loud enough to resonate but quiet enough to stir sorrow. An hour melted away as each story unfurled, emotions rising and falling like the waves of a serene yet tumultuous sea. The laughter and tears mingled, creating a bridge connecting past and present, healing the wounds that had festered too long. Then came the moment of truth, the locket. Emily lifted it gently, her hand shaking with raw anticipation. What if it holds the key to make sense of everything, the loss, the secrets? With careful precision, she opened its delicate clasp. Inside, she found the empty side ready for a photograph, waiting for a missing piece that could forge a connection between the past and her future. "Do you think they wanted to keep this hidden?" Margaret posed, crossing her arms in thought. "Or was it a treasure they intended to pass on?" "Maybe both," Emily replied, her voice steadying as she reached for the letters once more. It was clear that they weren't just relics, they were veils to be lifted, allowing truths to breathe. "There's so much we still have to uncover about their lives." The doorbell rang, a jarring sound breaking the haze of their revelations. Blood rushed in Emily's ears, a mix of anxiety and hope tethering her to the present. Could it be someone from the community? Tom nodded. They collectively sensed its importance. Stepping to the door, Emily felt an electric tingle in the air. When the door swung open, she was greeted not by a stranger but by an unexpected figure, Helen's sister, Sarah. "Hey, Emily, I heard about the necklace," Sarah said, her brows knitting together. "People are talking. Some of the townsfolk are worried about what you're digging up." "That's true, but this is part of our history," Helen replied before Emily could respond. "We can't hide from it anymore." With a heavy sigh, Sarah stepped in, her posture revealing both concern and hope. What if it changes how people see you? Or how they treat you? Then let it, Emily asserted, feeling a renewed strength rising inside. The stories belong to us now. We have the chance to rewrite the narrative together. As the four friends gathered close, Emily could see the fear in their eyes, but along with it she felt their resolve. They wouldn't shy away from unveiling the truths of their lives, of her family's legacy. They were standing at the precipice of transformation, not just for themselves but for those around them. In the echoes of shared stories they found belonging, purpose, and a power they never knew they held. Days turned to weeks as they organized community storytelling events, inviting townsfolk to share in both joy and sorrow, struggles and triumphs. Each tale built bridges, pulling Emily deeper into a tapestry of connection that intertwined with everyone's past. Through it all, the locket hung against her heart, a constant reminder that their shared history could transcend judgment. One evening, standing in the glowing warmth of her kitchen, she reread her great-grandmother's words, feeling her spirit lingering within the echo of her teachings. Be true to your roots, they said, and embrace the stories that bind us. With tears glistening in her eyes but a radiant smile blooming on her face, Emily felt transformed. She knew they had forged something beautiful, a renewed community bound by shared histories and unbroken spirits. This time, as she looked out at the horizon, the dawn felt like promise, and together, they would continue to weave their stories in the fabric of their town, reclaiming not only their legacies, but rewriting the future. And in that shared glow of courage, she saw hope shining bright. Now make sure to carry this flame into your own lives. You need to subscribe now for everything that's unfolding in our stories. Don't wait not even one more second to join the movement and support the journey. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Every click counts and spreads the word. Comment below with your reactions, your feelings about this inspiring transformation. We need to hear from you truly. And do not forget, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need these stories of courage and hope. Only true fans understand the importance of spreading this message. Let's light up the world together.